Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and we will discuss on futurist education. We have our world famous speaker, Professor Kirpal from Singapore, Mr. Paul from USA, Mr. Marshall from USA, and Mr. Shankar from India. First, I would like to give chance Professor Kirpal. Professor Kirpal.
Hi, Shahrudin, your voice is still cracking.
Okay, we can hear you. Can you continue? We want to
Can
hear
you hear me
from
now?
you. Yes.
Can hear you, but the sound is not very good. It's cracking up.
Okay, I can hear you, Professor.
But it's okay, we can proceed. Yeah.
Yes. Can you proceed, Professor? Okay, Mr. Marshall, can you take the lead about the futurist educations? I believe he has internet issue.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sharif, and it's a pleasure to be here. As we all know, education is probably one of the keys to the future for future generations, but it's also a key to one of the 17 Sustainability Development Goals of the United Nations mission to improve the environment. And knowledge is power, and education is the key to that knowledge. So one of the things that I would just say in my opening remarks is that it's important for everyone out there, especially young people that are contemplating going into into a new environment, to ensure that they go out and get their education and get a degree that meets the needs that they have. Here in the United States, the degree system is different than, let's say, in Malaysia or in other parts of the world. The typical process here in the United States is you have kindergarten through 12th grade. 12th grade finishes high school, and then we have some technical schools. We also have 2-year degree, associate degree schools, and then we also have 4-year degree schools. And then after that, there's master's and PhD level schools, if we're not talking about medicine. So that's the structure they have in the United States. It's a little different than, let's say, from my understanding, in other parts of the world. And I know that other parts of the world have it different, but the key element is that it's important that people make a decision to advance their careers and become educated as much as possible. So I'll give you an example. My own background, I have a bachelor of degree in clinical psychology, and I also have a master's in business administration in marketing management, and I was also a member of a group called the Recanati program, which was an advanced program in marketing, and I also have what's called a certificate from the University of Santiago de Compostela in Spain on biochar, which is it's actually an old material, thousands of years old, but it's gained notoriety just within the last, let's say, 10 years. And that certificate is similar to one of the other professors on this forum talked about that he has a relationship with NYU, New York University in New York, and there are certificates in finance for NYU that allow people to go to Wall Street and work on Wall Street. So this certificate that I have from the University of Santiago de Compostela is equivalent of that, but for sustainability and for understanding how the environment works and how to address environmental issues. So there are different ways, different pathways for education, but I just encourage everybody out there to go out and seek their mission, determine what their course of action will be, what type of opportunity and job creation are they looking for, and help do that by becoming educated as much as possible. My background, by the way, is highly quantitative. So I've taken courses that many other people haven't taken in an MBA level, such as quantitative analysis at a high level, along with different types of mathematical courses in the kind that's used for computer technology and like binary structures and things like that. So I highly advance. If you don't like math, at least dip your toe in the water and try to learn it. But in our opinion, it doesn't matter whether it's math or literature. If you want to get a degree in literature in your country, we encourage you to do that. So that's my introductory comments. Thank you, Sharif.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Paul. What you want to add for today, especially we are discussing on futurist education.
Well, the only thing I can add two things here right now. I got the first thing with regard to education. And I'll use an example. So I'm in communications business. I got a master's degree in communications, undergraduate as well. And so next week, a show called The Little Prince, that was a book by Anton de Exupery, will be going to Broadway. And when I got my master's thesis, I did it on The Little Prince and on the Beatles back in 1972. The thing with education, I would like to only say here is this for those that are considering going either back to school or just starting their additional education after, I guess, their primary high school and wherever they are. Try to be involved in your school with real kinds of projects. Some universities have you even doing full-time externships in the real world. So, get as much experience, because it'll be the experience in the real world that I believe will be helpful for you in your whole future. The second thing I'd like to say is the following, because The Little Prince is on Broadway now, and the Beatles were successful. And so that's why I'm only stating that. And just because I was fortunate, I was lucky to pick something that ended up being successful. The other thing is I apologize to all because I can't be on too long right now. I have to actually get off. But I wanted to at least say hello. Billions we don't need. But we have 4 events planned, and I'd like to just share them with you all. Earth Day, April 22nd, we're doing an event in Times Square here in New York. We had planned actually to do a World Water Day event, but it was still too COVID-y here in New York, which was March 22nd, a couple days ago. And we are real believers in the importance of water and been involved with that for like 20 years. But we pushed that into Earth Day. Now we're doing an event on Earth Day in Times Square, and we're calling it Water and Peace, a Ukrainian benefit. So this is our latest outreach. We were also able to get the Ukrainian church here in New York and our Actors Temple to do a benefit together, with funds going to the Ukraine. And I'll try to put that link of where it's on our website, goodnewsplanet.tv. And then we do have a need for donors or philanthropists on our projects. This next project, we have the Great Lawn on hold here in Central Park on 9/11, which I want to create a 18,000 person human peace sign. We'll create also a human peace sign down in Times Square with 7 large monitors from events happening in 7 continents of the world and other kinds of things. That place is expensive, I will say. And for that, and for another event then on September 21st was the International Day of Peace. We have Times Square and a celebrity concert, but that we do need like around $3 million. So, it's a shame that money, well, everybody's got to feed their family, and that's just the reality of the situation. And the city wants to be fed also. They have a big expense to use their land for an event. But that's all part of doing business, right? These are the educational opportunities that you gain by doing things, which goes back to college. By working in a real world and trying your best to tie it into your education, you start to realize that it's just not really just only book learning. It's a real reality. Thank you very much for giving me an
Thank you.
opportunity to speak about this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
I
Paul.
gotta run. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Edward, last week when I discussed with you, actually, you advised for this topic, futurist educations. So we bring this topic and we invite you. So what you want to add today?
Well, this is a very important topic indeed. In fact, I consider this to be the most important topic. The reason is because the foundation of all value is the human mind. It's our ability to understand the world and then to basically utilize that knowledge to create a better world for us, material wise, institutional wise, and in every other way. In the past, we basically had what I call an assembly line, mass production, industrial revolution model of education, which served us, 2 centuries ago, where basically leaders understood the importance of having an educated population because of the importance of the human mind. So basically, at 9 o'clock, students usually would go into a classroom and maybe study math. And then at 10 o'clock, they'd go down the assembly line. Maybe they'd be in the same classroom, and then they studied history and then something else. That's kind of been the pattern. You had the sage on a stage model, which is basically me standing up here lecturing all of you, and you're all taking notes and saying, wow, Ed's brilliant, or I'm bored by Ed, or whatever the case might be. But really, education ultimately is individual. It's your mind that has to process information. And what you see is that our institutions really are not fit for future education, for a future education needed in our economy and our societies. Just to give you an example, here in the United States, before the pandemic, there were 1.6 million more job openings than there were unemployed Americans, meaning we should have had full employment back then. It's just that because we have a disconnect between the schooling system and the needs of the market, the needs of businesses, the needs of research laboratories, and so forth, that has been the problem. It's been the problem, by the way, for many, many decades. When I started in my career back in the late 80s, I would visit business folks here in the United States, and I'd say, what are your biggest problems? And I'd expect that they would say taxes are too high and things like that, which they did. But they said they just couldn't get the kind of employees, workforce, human minds that they needed. A high school, what a high school education had done decades ago, now you need a college education. If you take a look at the colleges in the United States, you see a lot of time is simply spent on getting kids up to par because the high schools in our country tend to be very bad. What we need in the future is an education revolution. Partly, and well, mainly actually, this is because, first of all, exponential technology changes things very, very quickly. We all know that, whether in nanotech, biotech, information, the Internet of Things, all the things that we discuss on this show, Sharif. Everyone should go look at the old shows because they're still very, very relevant. So things are changing very, very quickly. The skill you might learn and might serve you for your whole life these days just doesn't necessarily do it. You might find in 5 years or 10 years, well, what you learn is no longer the market. The other thing, by the way, is that we are more global. We are more international. Just our discussion right now, usually our discussion about blockchains, usually our discussion about all of these issues are international. Now, sometimes this is to our disadvantage, as for example, when you see a country, tied to, say, oil from Russia, because they won't buy from, because of the various reasons we all know, that can be a problem. But the point is, we are a global economy, like it or not. I happen to generally like it, incidentally, because that's what brings costs down, and it's a very good situation. So what we need is an education revolution. I'll say a couple of things. First and foremost, we need consumer choice. This is crucial. If you take a look at the progress that we've had in past decades, it's generally not been because of a big government planning program. It's been because people like Steve Jobs and others basically competed to produce things like this. And then other companies came in and competed. And that's how we went from having 0 people with smartphones of any kind 15 years ago to 87% of American adults have smartphones because of consumer choice. That's what we need first and foremost in education, is for parents to be able to say, I want to get my kids in the following program, and to try out different programs and to try out different methods, and to have the suppliers try out different methods. Right here where I'm at in Montgomery County, Maryland, it's a very prosperous part of the United States. I was just engaged in a discussion because we have a one-size-fits-all way of teaching math in elementary schools. And half the kids have no idea what the heck's going on, including one of my daughters. It's a really stupid way of doing things. If I could take my daughter and say, we don't want to teach math this way, this is dumb, let's do it this other way, well, that's what we do. But, you know, the elites on high dictate that you've got to do it this way. And so it's a big mess. Consumer choice, that's number 1 on the list. Number 2 is that we have to have more of an alliance between businesses, entrepreneurs, and the education system. You know, I've said before, Sharif, that where I live here, the so-called I-270 corridor in Maryland has 100 of the best biotech countries in the world. Incredible companies that are doing research that's going to increase our longevity, our health, and so forth in the future. Their biggest problem is they can't get the kind of world talent, if I could coin a phrase here, that's needed. I would love to see more partnerships between these businesses here and the education system, instead of having the schooling system over here run by government elites, and it does a good job in a lot of ways. And then you have the businesses here saying, my gosh, how come we can't get the talent out of the schooling system? More alliances of that sort are necessary. And I've said in past programs, the Swiss have a very imaginative system. It's not that imaginative in the sense it goes back to the Middle Ages in one way. It's an apprenticeship system. They have something like 200 categories of apprentices. And when a kid is in what we would call high school level, basically they can do an earn and learn program where part of their time is not spent sitting in the classroom listening to people like me drone on and on and on. They actually go to a business, maybe a pharmaceutical company, maybe a finance company, maybe a tech company, maybe a, you name it, company. They actually I think they now have apprenticeships for education. And basically the kids will do part-time actually at the business. And it's kind of a job tryout. They'll see if they like it or not. Maybe they don't like pharmaceuticals. Maybe they go into something else. But they're not only learning the industry, they're also learning work habits. We have a spoiled population, I'm sad to say, in this country where they think they're entitled. But if you actually are in a business, you have to work and earn and have the proper work habits. A lot of times the businesses will pay for college education if it's necessary for those students, if they would come back after college and work for that business. And so that's a great advantage as well. The other thing I want to mention about this is more and more in the United States, college, typical or traditional four-year colleges are not necessary. We have a very serious problem in this country where the government is guaranteed loans for kids going to college, which might sound very nice, but what happens is kids take out loans, they go to college for 4 years, they get a degree that really isn't worth much in the market, they have huge debts, and it's a big problem. More and more companies are saying, you don't need a 4-year college degree. What you need is some way to show that you can do whatever the task is or whatever the skill is required. Just here in the state of Maryland, where I live, okay, the government has just announced that you don't need 4-year college degrees for certain jobs that you used to need a 4-year college degree. This is going to help open up a lot of professions for a lot of people. And again, that's another very good thing, is to open it up. The final thing I'll mention is lifelong education. again, when you talk about the future, let me see if I have my book here that I wanted to, well, I'll find it later. Here it is. I like to wave books around, okay? So I'm going to wave around this book, Robot Proof. Everyone worries, well, with all the technology, is my job going to be taken by a robot or an artificial intelligence? And the answer is, possibly. But this is the idea of lifelong education. For example, subscribing to an ongoing education system. So just as in industry, we have just-in-time inventory, how about just-in-time talent? And we need institutions that allow for that. The final thing I'll say, I'm working now, helping out an institution called the Madden Value Creation Center, based on this book on value creation principles. Value creation is what we're ultimately talking about when we're talking about businesses, but we're talking about education as well, educating folks so that they can create value, whether it's value in the market, whether it's value in research laboratories, whether it's value in nonprofits. And there are principles that tend to work, and there are principles that don't tend to work. And this is something that I think more and more in the future, as we look at having a more efficient workforce, we're going to be looking at these principles and saying, well, what exactly does make a good company? What exactly makes a good employee? And by the way, the hint is this. There's no such thing as a worker versus a manager versus an investor. We are all workers. We are all managers of our own time and talent. We're all investors in ourselves. It's an artificial separation. We're all entrepreneurs of our own lives. That's the secret to education in the future.
Thank you, Professor Edward. I want to give chance, Madam Dulcie. I think she is from MIT, developing a project, so she can share her experience with our audience in Asia Pacific. Dulcie.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sure.
Awesome. It's kind of loud here. I'm at MIT right now. I'm in the Students' Union building. I can walk around and show you guys what's going
Sure.
on. I'll do that in a second, but I just wanted to
Yes.
talk about this hackathon and what it means. It's the 5th year that they've had it here at MIT. They bring people from all over the world, students from all over the world, and professionals. It's an all ages hackathon. So you have children here that are preteen, teenagers in middle school. You have MIT students, Harvard students, NYU students, Columbia students, professionals from Silicon Valley, professionals from all over the world. I think this year it's probably the smallest that we've had in person because of COVID. It almost didn't happen because of COVID, but they managed to figure out how to get it to work. So we're here, there's about 300 people hacking. You've got representatives and hardware from Microsoft, Magic Leap, Snap, a couple of neuro interface companies, 2 haptic bodysuit companies. There is also quite a few platform companies that are dealing with back-end infrastructure setup. So there's challenges around how to tie people closer together at a distance. You've got hackers coming in from all over the world, hacking remotely as well in AltSpace and in Elements and Matrix, which are 2 decentralized working platforms that will replace Slack and Discord. That are connected into the blockchain. You also, Solana is here. It's a new blockchain currency, and they are participating in the hack. And the whole initiative around this is to push the boundaries of augmented reality, virtual reality, and spatial computing, and be as open and out of the box as possible when thinking about how to connect people from at a distance with different hardware and make that hardware interoperable. I gave a workshop on yesterday morning on the state of WebXR and Web3, and that really inspired a lot of students to go back and start building out their own WebXR domains to work with these headsets to be as interoperable as possible. And then the fact that we've got Solana here really hones in the fact that blockchain is an important feature that we really need to be thinking about and pushing for in the future. And it's not about the hype around NFTs. It's actually, there's a utility there that will benefit all of us. And so they're really pushing that. And it's a very exciting place to be. Usually they have this in the Media Lab, but this year we're doing it in the Student Center. And I had to find a quiet spot because it's a lot of hecticness going on. But I'm going to walk around and I'm going to show you guys what this place is like right now. Um, so we got a room over here with people lounging and hacking and whatnot. But the main event is happening over here in the it's called the Sala de Puerto Rico, which is really cool because I'm Puerto Rican. Um, so here we have the hackathon room with all the hackers. We're in the hacker lounge right now. All these are hackers working on devices. Sponsored by Microsoft. Hacker lounge. People just everywhere working. Headsets and devices. StreamYard. That's the Microsoft crew right there. It's all the Microsoft guys. Hi. We're hackers. So yeah, as you can see, it's bustling here. There's a lot going on. You know, I got the view of MIT back here. But yeah, it's fun. I'm mentoring and I'm helping students, and you know
Excellent.
everybody's here with the effort of building the future and changing the future and making the future better for everybody. Last night in the keynote, we had two speakers really talk about the ethics and the standards around spatial computing and what that means and how to put people in the center and put them first. So a lot of the hackers right now are choosing projects that are very socially impactful and are really putting humanity in the center of it instead of the corporations, and the corporations are all sponsoring that. So it's pretty cool. And then Microsoft and Magic Leap are working together on a new stack called MRTK, and it works on both headsets. So that starts the corporations working together to make interoperability, making sure that people are able to have the same kind of experience regardless of device that they're using. So it's a really exciting time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Madam Dulce. This is really interesting. Thank you for your excellent information. Professor David J. Kelly, last week you bring very important point for education. That's why we develop World Talent Economy Forum. What is your view about futurist education? Yeah.
About the future of education?
Yes.
Well, honestly, a lot of the people, uh, Marshall and so forth, or Edward in particular, I think his talk really brought up some good points in that with how things are going, it really is turning into something that's kind of education needs to be a lifestyle choice, really, at least in a lot of the technical fields like mine. I mean, if someone in my position or just in software engineering or artificial intelligence kind of thing stopped learning, you'd be out of a job in 2 years. You know, you really have to be in this mindset of constantly looking at what's new and how to be innovative and this sort of stuff. And that's something we're not teaching. I know, like last week, when I was on my soapbox, one of my big issues is that the kids coming out of college nowadays, they come into my office and they just don't have the skills. I don't have the time to train or hire these people, and what they're learning is just nonsense. I was teaching at BYU data science, and I ended up quitting over the fact that and the whole thing is, I wasn't doing that for money. I was doing it because for like 15 years I kept complaining about students, and I thought, well, I should just go and try to help address the problem instead of whining about it. And after a number of years, I just couldn't do it anymore because of the fact that the school was too rigid. And as an adjunct professor, I wasn't able to really change the curriculum and the curriculum was just, like I told the students frequently, and that was one of the things that me and the dean used to get in heated discussions over, was the fact that what they're teaching in that class, I would fire the kids for doing it that way. You just, no one does this in real life. And then they're talking about, well, we need to make sure database theory is used to filter kids out. Why are we trying to filter kids out? I could teach a 5-year-old to do TransAct SQL. It's just not that hard. And to do things in the most 1980s flashback sort of way, in the year 2020, is just ridiculous. And the mindset we have in some of these schools, where they just teach the same thing over and over and over for decades, and then they wonder why education is less relevant, especially in fields where everything changes every 2 years like clockwork. And it just blows my mind that where we've gotten to, and it really is, the people that really excel are the people that love it. In the past 20 years, I've hired 2 interns, only 2 interns. And the reason I did it was, you walk into my office and you whip out your shiny degree, you've lost the job. I'm not interested. I don't care.
Yeah.
You got your job from Harvard, or your degree from Harvard or Cambridge or University of Washington or whatever. No, don't care. I really don't. Show me what you've done and what you can do, like right now. And so, like the 2 interns I hired, one of them was a kid at University of Washington. I'm proud to say that he dropped out of school like 15 years ago, and he's now a rising star at Microsoft and a senior engineer. Absolutely brilliant kid. But this kid had ripped out the dashboard of his car 15 years ago, and it was all like touch displays, WPF, XAML-based C# kind of code operating his Star Trek car, and it was just phenomenal. And the CEO didn't want to hire this kid because he was his cousin, and I had to he thought some nepotism kind of thing, and normally maybe that was kind of true-ish, but the kid was so brilliant that I just like, look, we've got to hire a dad. Have you seen his car? He wrote that in WPF, which is what we're doing now for Bill Gates, right? And he absolutely amazing kid. And that's what we do. People that learn sort of fun of it, and look fun of it, and being able to do that.
Dr. David, I cannot hear you.
You cannot hear me?
Now clear.
Now you can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
And I think a great way of teaching that sort of thing is like this hackathons, getting people passionate about the technology and engaged in the technology, and getting away from the mindset we typically see in academia to actually going and doing something that's what's going to make people good and make people excited about it and make people useful. When you can come into the office and you said, yeah, I did this, blah, 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 at this hackathon. And I think that's absolutely, the kinds of things we need to be doing to get people engaged, excited, and jobs, getting out and doing it. That's what matters, being able to do the job. And, honestly, kind of along the themes of what we've been talking about, schools are just not cutting it anymore. I think, we could go and address that. Schools could get to the point where they are doing more of the right thing. And I think we'll move in that direction because they don't want to go out of business either. But, there's a lot of work to be done. And I think people need to focus on what's going to help them. And what's going to help them is getting excited about the technology, doing stuff that gets them into that mindset of lifelong learning, and making it fun, really.
Excellent point, Professor David Jekali. Mr. Shankar, I believe that few weeks we discussed about this point. Even in India, Global Chamber of Commerce, you have a lot of corporations, how the corporate demand we can fulfill through our academic initiative. I think exactly Dr. David Jekali sharing this view, Madam Dulcie, Professor Edward, Mr. Marshall, everybody sharing this view. What you want to share in practically in Asia, in developing nations, what we can do, how we can apply this brilliant mind thought in India or in Asia. Mr. Shankar, can you unmute, please?
Thank you so much. And I just see today as a very unusual day from the times then when we used to speak about what we can do with the talent. I mean, there are so many stalwarts here and giving their points of views that I come to just resonate with all the great professors talking. I'm from a different background. I'm basically a global chamber, and we work with companies and help them actually articulate their internationalization. Having said that, there is much to learn from the United States, the UK, and all the developed countries, and how you articulate the the transitioning, what we call, what we used to call as education. What we used to call as education was a set of rules. Actually, it was schooling. Education definitely is the ability to stand outside our brains and then guide it according to many parameters from what we call as intellectual. Even the emotional aspects is so connected with what we need to understand as education, because today education is not a singularly held thing. It is all about collaboration and coming together with an idea whose time has come, and there are aligned students who can work as we call as cohorts to bring in the solutions required. So the parameters, the differentiation, it is getting blurred. That is, corporate companies need to learn so much from the way an educational institution is initiating an idea. And at the same time, it is all about being practical. It's all about, so we come to one single point today. That is, someone said, we need to be inspired. Education will really give you, if it's real education, it's about individual inspiration. And I think AI, for example, is playing a very big role in that, because each individual, each soul, each student is here with an idea, with a gift for mankind. It's just that it was a spell on mankind that we needed to follow one, two, three steps and get a job. Now, the shift is going into research, and schools will see more and more researchers coming out, because it is not meant for or in order to get a job, which was the basic psychology in the past century. And now we are on the cusp where our research, our quality of understanding needs a system. So identifying each student's capability, the talent, the orientation, all that will play a role in changing economies, in changing politics and policies and whatnot. So fanning that part of a student is so important. And we have a lot to do by collaborating with international organizations and colleges, which is what I've been telling Professor Sharif about, creating that infusion in India, where we can bring the knowledge, the know-how, and the articulation of how things can be empowered, like it's about entertainment. Like you said, there was a gentleman who was there earlier. He said about the Beatles and all of that. So we can't really differentiate. Education is a dull and boring thing. It has got various aspects of talent coming together to create something which we cannot create alone. And I'm looking forward to more discussions. And actually, on the ground, what everybody agrees today is all about practicality. And we are seriously looking at how we can take India, for example, and the developing nations to the next level by giving that empowerment, that giving that attitude of getting inspired children and future ready entrepreneurs.
Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent, excellent. That is the things I want to share from World Talent Economy Forum as our focus in developing nations. I can ensure from Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, China, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan's millions of people, Nepal, Bhutan's millions of people actually engaging with World Talent Economy Forum, as we have a very high quality people in our team. So if they can team up together, then I'm sure we can help millions of people with proper way, because what actually Dr. David Kelly, Madam Dulcie, even Professor Edwards, everyone sharing with us, this is important in education. And if we can fix one problem, like solve one problem like education, I'm sure uh, I think maximum problem in developing world will be solved. Madam Dulcie, as you are in hackathon, I learned love to learn more, because our audience from developing world, they are big fan of MIT. So what is your curriculums, what is your syllabus, how your engineering develop their skills, what type of problem you are solving? Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of what David, Kelly, and Shankar were mentioning just now about how corporations have to get involved with the educational system. Well, this is a ground zero for that. We've got multiple corporations working and inspiring students. Yesterday we had an expo center where Microsoft, Magic Leap, Looking Glass Factory all demoed their products, and I'm right there is the checkout room for those hardware devices. And so students have the ability, this hackathon cohort has the ability to play with those devices and learn how to use them. The main uh, curriculum and syllabus for this hackathon has been fusion, the idea of fusion, and fusion for everybody, all diversities, fusion with our DNA, fusion with our thoughts, fusion with our collaborations, just fusion of creating new things that we can't even think of yet, because we've combined two opposite things together and now a new thing has spawned out of that. So it's really like pushing the edge and the boundaries of how to create these systems that will really become part of our everyday lives in the future when we start becoming more spatialized, and these devices like these iPhones become disappeared and become ubiquitous, and we have headsets that look just like these glasses that we're putting on. That's where we're heading. So we've got representatives from, Snap has their Snap spectacles that don't have they're not tethered, and they're completely spatialized. So people are working in Snap World Lens to build out projects. They're also working in Unity to build out projects. WebXR is really prominent in this in this hackathon. So there's many different high level thoughts around like XR for good, XR for inclusion, XR for civil engagement, XR for entertainment. We also have a track of people hacking online. So we're hacking the hack online. They're using tools like Element and Matrix, which are decentralized, blockchain based applications like Slack and Discord that are open source. So organizations, when they download it, they're not beholden to Slack or Discord parent company. They now can serve up these collaborative spaces on their own server systems. So, MIT set that up. Even though we are still using Discord right now because the majority of people have Discord and it's easier to use, but eventually we're going to be transitioning into more of like an agency-based project management system. So the encouraging factor of this hackathon and the inspirational factor of this hackathon is to give people agency, to include everybody, and to really map out the future where it is there's standards and ethics at the base of it, and we all understand what that is. So that's pretty much the motivation and the curriculum and the syllabus here. There's prizes attached to that. Each one of these corporations, they have a prize purse for each one. Some of them give away hardware, some of them give away money, software, whatnot. And a beautiful thing that happens here is that hackers end up making relationships, real relationships with employees of these companies and directors at Microsoft and Magic Leap and such, and end up actually working for them over time. There's several hackers here who now work for Microsoft or Magic Leap, and they met them at these hackathons. So I encourage people as much as possible, like David Kelly said, like Professor Edward said, you must keep learning. You've got to keep learning. You're never not going to be learning. And we're evolving so quickly right now. And if you're not up on the latest, greatest, you're going to be left behind, and the digital divide is going to get greater. Now, understanding that, the motive is to lift everybody up. So we're privileged. We're privileged to be in this space. We're privileged to have access to these hardware devices and software stacks. We're privileged to have access to these really smart, talented people, to be in this hallowed, beautiful campus that's world renowned. It's a lot of privilege. So we got to understand that and look down and look around us and lift the people that aren't privileged up, and focus on them, and make sure that the entire world is included, and we have agency over how we traverse these metaversal spaces and these waters. So yeah, that's where we are.
Thank you, Madam Dulce. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks for today. First, I want to give chance Professor Edward.
There we go. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I concur pretty much with what everybody has said here. Again, I want to emphasize a couple of points that everyone has made. And that is, first of all, learning is going to be lifelong learning. We're not going to be able in the future to simply say, well, I've learned how to do this or that or the other, some narrow skill, and that's it. I'm going to just drift on that. And that's not what human life is about. Human life is about growth and flourishing. And flourishing means to continue to higher levels, you might say. The very activity of learning is one of the things that should give everybody joy, that you learn something new, that you learn a new skill, that you get more knowledge. It's the thing that, one of the things that makes us human, and it's the glory of life. And so to make, as I think David Kelly correctly said, make it a lifestyle. Just as we have lifestyles for other things, athletics and so forth, make this a lifestyle. And we have to think about two things. First of all, our institutions, in most cases, are not equipped. And that's pretty much everywhere around the world. And that's why I love what Sharif is doing with world talent. I love talent. We have to look at institutional change to facilitate robot proofing, as it were, our future. And finally, cultural change to celebrate value creation, to celebrate how it empowers us as human beings. We have to make that part of the culture, not only in the United States, but around the world. And I'm happy to see what Sharif has been doing for how many shows? I can't even count anymore.
509 shows. Yes.
Anyway, so thanks all, and thanks for the comments from all.
Thank you, Professor Edward. Mr. Marshall, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Well, I think that seeing the MIT Hackathon is a really great opportunity for the people watching this seminar or this webinar that we're sharing. I like it because it's interactive. It's interactive on interactive. So she's doubling down on what she's doing at MIT, and I want to congratulate her for all the hard work she's doing. And again, everybody in this panel, I think we're all singing the same song sheet. So go out there and make an effort, get your education, and as I forgot which somebody said that if you don't keep up with it, you're out of a job in 2 years. So you got to keep education is ongoing, it's lifelong, and you got to keep at it. So thanks everybody, and thank you, Sharif, for having me on.
Thank you. Mr. Shankar, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Yes, I want to again state the fact that we are privileged. The fact that Sharif has created this in conjunction with all the technologies we got is actually something we cannot overlook, because this is happening precisely because of the World Talent Economy. And I keep coming here, and each time I come here, something new opens up. And that's the point, what education is all about. And taking on from what Dilch said, this privilege needs to go to each and every person on the planet. And being human is an extension of what we call as, ourself is actually our humanity. And we need to learn, give, teach each other, give each other, and create a better world. I think education's fundamental core delivery is to give a better life and a better freedom of thought and being able to reach those levels which we were meant to. The gift of being human needs to be reached out at that level. And I think all the educational institutions are privileged to be a conduit for that. And thank you very much for tonight's event. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Mr. Shankar. Professor David J. Kelly. We have very, very special conference next year, February. I will invite you all. So especially for Dr. David J. Kelly, I want to arrange a special session. Definitely everybody get chance because your discussions and what you say is so true, and this is very very important for our education system. That's why I'm last 14 years I'm in academy, but that is the reason we develop World Talent Economy Forum, because industry is one side, modern technologies another one side, and on the other hands our education systems is far more behind. We have to improve it, and definitely all of your experience is very very valuable for our youth community. So what is your concluding remarks, Dr. David J. Kelly?
Well, I think the most important thing that I can say to especially kids or young people coming into the workforce is do what you love and get in the habit of that lifelong process of exploring what that is. You know, if you like computers, if you like programming, if you like, you know, I mean, it really could be anything. But my little box is in the software engineering and AI and that sort of thing. But you know, if you love what you're learning and you get in that habit of kind of the hackathon approach to doing things, that's what'll make you good, and that's what'll make you successful. And you know, when you do something cool, like if you're over at MIT and you do some cool app, you know, and it looks cool on screen and everyone likes it, then give me a call and I can help you get a job probably.
Okay, excellent.
It that's really the secret, is just learn to love and love to learn, and you'll be good.
Okay, excellent, Dr. David Jekyll. I told you that we are bringing millions of people. So my friend from Bhutan, I assume he observed our show, and he joined from Bhutan. He's also bringing millions of people under his umbrella. So, Mr. Jackson, what you want to share about education for today's session? Jackson.
Okay, so I'm really sorry I couldn't join in because here today, unfortunately, we have some news that the COVID cases are increasing, and there's some problem here. So I was stuck with that, and we are already undergoing this lockdown, for almost a month now. Actually, we had in the recent time 2 times lockdown. So I believe there was a rumor that again we are going to, enter into very strict lockdown, some kind of that situation. So I couldn't attend early on. Yeah. So yeah, education is very important, but I think now we have to orient our education system so that it is more oriented to serving, the like actual, like market scenario. So there's something that I'm working on right now. We are trying to unite the educators all over the world so that we can bring all these much required education reforms. Okay, so that yeah, especially in Asia, now the education system is such that is giving so much pressure on the students. So I think we need to, like make our education system something which is, something more of a learning experience. Okay, not just like by having everything from the book and trying to conduct this test and all these things. So something that is really, like equipped to give all the skills and knowledge so that we can prepare the students for the market, and also it's more like a learning experience. Okay, so definitely there are so many, issues related to our present education system. So there's a definitely need to change our education system. So that's how, I would like to see something to, uh, uh, bring all these global reforms so that we can, in the first place, uh, come up with some kind of a universal, reforms so that we can align all the education system all over the world to make it at least 70 to 80%, aligned towards a unified, goals and standard. And also the next thing is to uh, orient our education system so that we can really produce educated, well-informed, and productive global citizens. Okay, so that's something that I'm very much interested to work towards, bringing all these global educated reforms.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Madam Darcy, what's your concluding remarks for today?
I've moved into another hack room.
Okay, okay.
Oh, I just wanted to show you this guy right here. He's a very important person. He's
Hello.
the one with the
Hello.
headphones on. He's the director. That's Scott Greenwald of MIT. He's the director of this application or this program. So if you're interested in getting involved in the MIT Hackathon, he's the person to reach out to, Scott Greenwald. But I definitely would like to say, yes, it's important. Keep learning, keep growing, never stop learning. Hackathons are a great place to do that. This is an all ages hackathon, and they sponsor people from all over the world, and they bring these cohorts together every year. They do it online and in person, so check it out. It's Reality Hack at MIT. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Dulce. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. From today's sessions, we can understand that what will be the modern education, and definitely that is our objective of World Talent Economy Forum. Thank you, Professor David J. Kelly, Madam Dulce, Mr. Marshall, Mr. Shankar, Mr. Jackson, Professor Edward, even actually another professors. He joined today, but he cannot finish his speech because of internet connection, Professor Dr. Kirpan. So thank you everyone for joining today's sessions. It's really good session for our audience, and hopefully they can learn many things. I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible. Mr. Jackson, as you have millions of people, please share our content. I'm sure we have a more than 500 content, very valuable content. All of the famous speaker from around the world, they sharing their experience, and this is really valuable for the youth community. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.